Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich, George Stoyle, all the way back from SEC coaches meetings down in Destin, Florida. Welcome back.
Thank you. I forgot to get you the hat. Well, I didn't forget. I tried to get you the hat,
but
no luck. They, I think, ran out is what I was told.
Yeah. I'm getting to the point where it's going to be a little bit of it's going to be embarrassing because I'm going to end up probably trying to pay somebody for the hat.
I tried to find
I will pay an obscene amount for that specific hat.
I tried to find like a link, like if they have like a store online. I couldn't find anything. I might reach out. I might reach out.
I don't want to I don't want to be like the new kid on the block and start like trying to demand rules and stuff.
I love the logo too.
The logo's badass.
It's pretty sick.
I like it. I don't know. It's probably one of those things that if this was happening like outside of the Oklahoma sphere, I'd be like, well, these people are losers. It's
Crazy
a,
people. Well,
it's a logo. Who cares?
That's part of being the SEC. Is
it just means more, right?
It just means more, and you're a part of the craziness.
Did it feel like it just meant more at the SEC coaches meetings?
Yes.
What was kind of your biggest takeaways, just from like not even the coaches stuff, but just being around the SEC folks? I know that we were in Nashville with them for the SEC Media Days last summer, but kind of the same old, same old. Is it? I don't know. It always felt like the Big 12 and the SEC, the Media Days at its core is the same. Yeah. But I think there is some stuff that the SEC was like, okay, this is a little bit more, I don't know, like official maybe.
Yeah, and I think that the Big 12 has meetings too.
Sure. We talked about that on the podcast this week. It's like I never once thought about that being a thing that we would even want to go cover.
But that's the SEC being smart about their branding.
Sure.
Like they know that they should invite some media, and some, again, it like I've said this, it was a who's who of media. Like it wasn't just your run of the mill, local people that are there. It's a bunch of national media. Only about one or two local media from each outlet are able to go to this thing. And so they're smart about the way they present it. And they also know like what they want to say, the agendas in terms of, what's going on in college athletics. They are very lockstep in a lot of ways in that sense. And so I think the biggest takeaway is just that it like it's cliche to say it just means more, but I mean, they're staying in a nice hotel right on the beach. They have, it's very organized the way they present it. Like I said, they know what they want to say. And everybody, I think the other thing too is like for Oklahoma's sake, I've said this several times, but like Oklahoma walks into the Big 12 or wherever, and there's just this like, oh, well, they're the top dog, and everybody's chasing after them. That's just not the case at the SEC. Everybody feels good. Everybody's confident, and you can kind of sense that almost arrogance among every
I think the Oklahoma fan base will fit in quite well amongst them. It is going to be fun, and obviously everything with the rollout and the July 1st with Paul Feinbaum and SEC Network, all that kind of stuff coming to town should be really cool. I guess that's kind of the last like unofficial thing that OU has in the SEC until SEC Media Days in the middle of July, right?
Yeah, July 15th.
It's crazy.
Through the 18th, I believe, is Media Days down in Dallas, which, again, it's smart marketing on the SEC's part. Having it in Dallas the first year that OU and Texas are there, fans are able to come to that event or at least hang out and see the teams arrive and that sort of thing. Like, the SEC just does things differently than, say, the Big 12. The Big 12's going to Vegas, which is new for them, but, like, I think that the SEC is really smart in having it somewhere that fans can be present, especially OU and Texas fans.
Were there fans down in Destin?
There were. It was hilarious. Because I think that some of these fans, like there was this one lady that
I
don't want to say she was a nut job.
God love her.
Definitely big Alabama fan. And she kind of just waited out because the media just sit out kind of in the lobby, right outside the big ballrooms, and kind of wait for, because they have to, the coaches and stuff stay in the rooms, and so they have to go to the elevators. And there was one lady, I think it was yesterday, trying to see if Kalen DeBoer was still there.
Oh boy! And
the Alabama beat writer, shout out Nick Kelly from Tuscaloosa News, good friend of mine, was explaining to her that Kalen had already gone home, but that Greg Bryan was still there, and
she's like, I don't care about the athetic director.
No, she did. She was like, "Oh, I want to meet Greg too."
They just want to meet him.
Yeah, and then
just
Sankey,
have a conversation.
She wants to meet Sankey.
Well,
too.
everybody wants to meet Greg.
And then there was a Tennessee fan there that he sat out and waited out Rick Barnes and Josh Heupel
Unbelievable.
for hours, and he was on vacation.
Yeah,
and he's spending his time sitting in the hotel lobby waiting for.
I guess at
Rick
the end of the
Barnes.
day, he is in Destin, Florida. There's worse places to be. Maybe he's going to get some beach time afterwards.
Yeah.
The one-on-one FaceTime though, and we saw it a little bit with some of the fans that were down in the lobby at SEC Media Day, but I'm sure the same could be said for we're going to see here in a couple months or about a month and a half.
Yeah, OU fans should show up to Dallas. I mean, that'd be
Dallas, not Arlington.
I think it's at the
Omni. Yeah.
Omni. So show up. I think I can't remember what day they're on, but show up whatever day Oklahoma's there and make your presence felt, because I do think that is something that means something in the SEC.
I think the last time we were at the Omni for a media day excursion was when we had the great moment that Carrie has always talked about in the elevator, where everybody that was with what was the company? Carrie, what's the company? What am I? Mary Kay, damn it, that Carol worked for. All the people were in the elevator. They knew who Carol Stoops was because she was such a bigwig at the time with Mary Kay. Nobody even knew that her husband was like probably the most famous person in the elevator, which is just unbelievable. A really good time. July 16th for Oklahoma at SEC Media Day. And if I remember correctly, it's a really good group that day too. I want to say Georgia, Missouri, Oklahoma, Tennessee.
Missouri.
Your buddy, Eli Drinkwitz.
My buddy, Eli Drinkwitz, OU's biggest rival now.
Yeah, people have their thoughts on that. Tell us in the comment section how you feel. It's going to be a lot of fun, though. It is a good time. You wrote a bunch of stuff while you were in Destin, some reporting and talking about Brent Venables, Porter Bozer, JD Baranchek. You talked to Joe C. a little bit. Talked to Joe Harris as well. OU president. We'll have a little bit more on that. But as we said, softball's in full swing, a 9-1 win to open the Women's College World Series on Thursday over Duke. They now have an off day today on Friday. We wanted to stop down. There's a couple of items to get to. They play in a winner's bracket game on Saturday on ABC at 2 o'clock. OU baseball in action this evening. Bob Brisbillo's in Oklahoma City. I'll be over at baseball. Needless to say, it's a good time to subscribe to Soonerscoop.com. Really good promo right now for you out there, the YouTube viewer. $1 for 2 months of Soonerscoop.com. All you got to do is go to Soonerscoop.com, use the promo code OU1, $1 for 2 months. It's a special offer out there for you, the YouTube viewer. Pretty good deal with everything that is going on right now. Josh McQuestion's been up at Oklahoma, going around doing his high school spring tour. He sat in and we did a recruiting report. He was right where you were the other day. So
shout out Josh.
Yeah, absolutely.
You should definitely subscribe, because these interviews that I did down in Destin, there's not a lot of videoing at this. It's all beat writers, and so you're just recording audio. So if you want to read some of the quotes that either Brent Venables had, which he gave me almost 40 minutes of his time.
I mean, who knows? You could be making all this stuff up because it's not on video.
I could be making it up. I would never do that. But and then Joe Castiglione, I spent a lot of time speaking with him and covered a variety of topics, and I went and basically published that Q&A about football facilities, new basketball arena stuff, all that Brent Venables and just kind of his transition to the SEC, all that kind of stuff. So definitely check all that out. And there's gonna be more. I've been saving some stuff for some bigger stories probably coming out next week.
We talked to you while you were in Destin on, what was that, Tuesday. You can watch that if you want right here on Soonerscoop.com's YouTube channel. Just in terms of like kind of a summary, kind of a recap from everything that was, certainly I think the fit thing is going to be something that a lot of people talk about over the next couple months. But just from like Brent Venables' perspective, anything else out there that you thought, oh, that's kind of interesting as maybe you made the way back to Oklahoma City?
Not a lot. I think talking to other coaches and athletic directors, spent some time with Zach Selman, who's obviously now the AD at Mississippi State. Just the respect for Brent, I think is very clear. And same with, Steve Sarkisian. There was a lot of talk about him and Brent together kind of being the new guys in the room. I mean, these coaches are very familiar with them. Shane Beamer talked, extensively about Brent and just kind of, competing against him his first year at South Carolina when Brent was still the defensive coordinator at Clemson. I think that the takeaway is that Oklahoma's not going to be taken lightly. And I don't think anybody is in this conference, but I think that they understand that Brent has done a good job of building this program so far. And I think that they're kind of, and even talking to some of the national media, there's just a lot of questions around Oklahoma. You
Right.
know, I had a lot of people asking me like,
Yeah, what
do
were
you
the questions that were being asked of you from some of the people that
they were
out
just
there?
saying, you know, what's the feel with the team this
Sure.
year? Because I think that there's a lot of people from the outside and say, oh, they don't expect a lot. But then I think there's also some people that are like, well, maybe they could surprise some people. And so, you know, everyone knows about the offensive line issues. That is not just in the Oklahoma bubble
Right.
topic. You know, Brent was asked that question actually by a national media member about the offensive line and maybe his concerns there. But I think it's also very clear. Everybody knows who Danny Stutzman is. Everybody knows who Billy Bowman is. There's a lot of respect for that defense. I think that everybody has the same questions that Oklahoma does and that we do that cover the team, which is the offensive line.
Sure.
And is Jackson Arnold really that guy?
Just a general thought, or if any, on what Oklahoma is going to be defensively, because I think that we get caught up in the OU bubble because we're around it so much. And you look at all the guys, you could list them all off, all the guys that are returning. It feels like this thing in year 3 is going to be pretty damn good on the defensive side of the ball. Any type of those discussions.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of national media agree. I think that a lot of people are very high on this defense. Coaches, too. I mean, coaches were talking about the job that he's done turning around that side of the ball.
Yeah.
Defensively. And I saw there was a story out there this week from Athlon Sports where they did a bunch of anonymous coach surveys. And the thing about Oklahoma was Brent has done a really good job rebuilding that side of the ball. And so I think the expectation is that they're going to be good on that side. I think that there was a lot of talk about Dominic Williams and how big of a pickup that was for Oklahoma up front. So I think that's the expectation. I think it just comes down to the big question marks over on the other side. And I think, Britt I asked him about it, kind of building that identity of the program on the defensive side of the ball. And he's, you know how Brent is. He's like, it's not there yet. It's not where it needs to be.
It's never going to be good enough, but
right.
That's a good thing. That's
and
a good problem.
I brought up that quote to him about, last year he said they wanted to be on another planet defensively. I said, and you guys took a big leap. Do you think you can take another big leap this year? And his response is, we have to.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of tells you all that he thinks about his defense is I think he likes the potential there, but he knows that they still have a ways to go and that they have to be as good as the expectations are if they want to have success next year.
Porter Moser, Jenny Baranchek, what was the word with both of them? I know that those two programs right now probably drastically different in terms of where they are going into next season. But where'd you think of your conversations with them?
I think the biggest takeaway from Porter was getting Jalen Moore, and I know that everybody expected him to come back. That was a big piece to get him officially back in terms of leadership and also just how he's grown as a player. I think that is a huge get for them. And then I think he talked about the portal and kind of the difficulties of going through it and rebuilding your roster every year. But he said that's just kind of the reality of college basketball right now. And he likes his team. Look, he's not going to come out and say that
would be concerning if he's like, well, don't even worry about the NCAA tournament.
And he said, last year that the identity was they wanted to go out and get more athletic. They wanted to get faster. And he said that was still the same goal this year, but they wanted to be better at shooting. He thought that they needed to go out and get some shooters. He really likes Duke Miles. He likes a couple of other guys. He thinks that they can be really an improved shooting basketball team. And he thinks that in the SEC, that could give them an advantage. So we'll see. Again, Porter's just one of those guys that he's
always going to be positive. I mean, you can't fault him for being for the enthusiasm that he has within the program.
And I think it's not fair to say it's going to work or it's not going to work just yet because you just don't know how guys are going to mesh and how they come together. So you try to.
It's going to be hard for it to work, but. Hey, let's be positive.
Right.
Let's be positive. Maybe he can't put something special together.
And it was funny because it was one of the first times I've ever interacted with Porter, and he was like, "Where's Bob?" And I was like, "Well, he's
asking for Bob." That's beautiful.
So,
that's beautiful.
But Jenny was great. Her program.
I'm sure very excited about Reagan Beers.
Yes,
and everything that's coming back to that program.
And she talked at length about just the difficulty of the SEC, and she said, sitting in that room with coaches like. Don Staley, Kim Mulkey, these are high level basketball coaches, and there's been a lot of talk about, and I asked her this, there's been a lot of talk about being SEC ready in football, but what's it like for women's basketball where the SEC has been the premier conference in women's basketball in recent history, and she said it's going to be really tough. She said she goes, you look at your schedule and you say, man, we've got to go to South Carolina. We got to go to LSU. And then she goes, but you also have Texas coming to Norman, and Texas is going to be really good. And so she's like, it's going to be really challenging, but she feels really good about her squad. And It's also just fun watching like what coaches interact with who, because we can kind of see them talking during lunch and stuff. And it was funny watching Jenny she spent most of her time with Vic Schaefer, who is the head coach over at Texas. And
well, it's the two new kids,
Yeah,
the new people. They got to stick together.
Brent was talking. I saw him more with Sark than any other coach. So it's always interesting to see. And Heupel.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to Heupel, which is obviously he coached Heupel back on the 2000 national championship team. So it's always interesting. That to me was one of the more fun takeaways, is just watching who interacts with who.
Who's Lane hanging out with?
Lane Drinkowitz.
Probably talking NIL.
Yeah, I know.
How to skate the rules.
The NIL kings right now. So
that's funny. Do you real quick? Last question for me from Destin. How's Kimmy? How's she doing?
She's
Miss
good.
Mulkey, Coach Mulkey.
She definitely commands a room. She has quite the strut walking through the lobby.
How are the outfits this week?
Very tame.
Okay.
Jeans and like a button down shirt.
Dress up for us a little bit.
Yeah. She had some big heels on though.
Yeah.
And it was funny. Jenny said, and she's right. Jenny was talking about the coaches in the room and how great they are. And she said, people in Oklahoma don't want to hear this, but Kim Mulkey's a hell of a basketball coach. And she's like, you can glean a lot from her.
That's the best part about it is she's crazy for sure. But she is a really good basketball. Just look what she did at LSU.
Right.
She literally left Baylor at the top and then was like, I'll just take this program over, and then went home and did what she's done.
Yeah, and it sounds like I think Jenny's probably friends with just about anybody, but I do think that her and Kim have run into each other quite a bit and are pretty friendly with each other.
I'm sure that they'll be running into each other a lot more here over the next couple of years. If Jenny can recruit like I think she is right now, you're probably going to be going head-to-head against LSU in some of those battles here moving forward. So, all right, that's very good. Fun trip.
Great trip. I didn't get to go on the beach a ton.
Yeah.
Maybe 15
How's
minutes
the weather?
beach time.
Weather good?
Oh, fantastic.
Hot?
It was humid for sure.
It always rains down there this time of the year.
But you're right. I mean, like I said, this is a
Had you been to Destin before?
I've been to Pensacola. I'd never been to Destin.
Is that close?
Yeah,
Pensacola
it's about an hour and a half away.
Okay.
Same kind of deal. I think Destin's a little bit nicer, probably.
Yeah, it sounds like Pensacola is kind of a little white trash.
Yeah, it is.
Is that right?
Yeah. Shout out my dad. That's where he likes to vacation.
Well, I can't say much. I went to Padres. So, all right, very good. We did get some kickoff times while you were down there still. It sounds like Oklahoma knows their first. They have four start times.
Yep.
You know the first three. Temple on Friday, August 30th, 6 o'clock, ESPN. We knew that going in. The other two, 6:45 against Houston on September 7th. SEC Network, which will be kind of fun. That'll be the first game that OU's played on the SEC Network.
I think so.
I would have to think so.
Yeah.
And then September 14th, the week after, Tulane, 2:30, ESPN or ABC. October 12th, OU Texas, 2:30 kickoff for the first time since 2017. I guess the good news is you don't see any 11 a.m. games, and that's a win in and of itself.
Huge win. I know that has been a big gripe, obviously, of the fans, and even Joe Castiglione has talked about it. The coaches have talked about it, players, all of that. So, that was part of this move. Now, OU didn't just move. I know the joke out there is always, OU just wanted to play Nebraska at night.
That's it.
It is part of it. I mean,
and
the
a
TV,
lot more money and everything.
All of that stuff. But like. And I asked Joe C that yesterday, just point blank. I said, I know that you guys didn't make this move because of this, but when you see the kickoff times, does it almost kind of validate the move? And he laughed and he said, well, there was a lot of reasons, but yeah, sure. Having these is definitely true. And he kind of threw the Big 12 under the bus and said, hey, it was disproportionate.
Sure.
The amount of 11
I think everybody
games.
knows the numbers. We ran over them multiple times on the YouTube shows during the football season last year.
It was pretty ridiculous. And so I think that it's massive, get those night games, nationally televised games as well. I think that they, won't have, I think they'll have maybe one ESPN Plus game, which would probably be the main game, I would think. And even that game could end up being on SEC Network. So, that's a positive as well. And from my understanding, there's a chance OU doesn't play an 11 a.m. game this year.
Amazing.
I still
now,
think
will they play a noon game maybe?
They could, and that's the thing that the SEC is also doing in partnership with ESPN is they can change some of the game times. Just like 6:45, that's a new time slot that I think Oklahoma's. I saw Mike Houck tweet out they've played in it maybe once or twice, but like the SEC's trying to move these times around where they can stagger the games a little bit, as well as ESPN, and also give fans more time. So wouldn't be shocked if you saw a noon kickoff. I still wouldn't be shocked either if you got an 11 a.m. kick for maybe South Carolina or Maine or something like that. That wouldn't surprise me, but it's certainly going to be less, and that's a huge win. And then you talk about OU Texas, which, from my understanding, they were not going to announce that game. I think that.
Oh, really?
I think it got leaked. I think they were kind of saving it for to have its own day.
Interesting.
I think it got leaked, and they just
I think
went
it was
ahead
McMurphy. Brett McMurphy was the first to put it
Yes.
out there. But listen. It doesn't matter to me. I think 2:30 is going to be awesome, just as much as 11 a.m. will be awesome. Would have been awesome. There is this part of me though, with it having been, I think, 14 of the last 16 years at 11 a.m. It had become kind of a little bit.
Was the
It
last
had been
one.
a little bit of a tradition at 11 a.m. I don't know.
I agree. I think anytime you play that game, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
You obviously can't play it at night for reasons that are obvious. And it was funny. I think it was Chip Brown, who covers Texas, asked Joe C, is it just kind of an unwritten rule that you can't play it, play that game at night? And Joe C laughed and said, written or unwritten, I'll write it right down. Right now, we're never playing that game at night.
I mean, he's been there. There is one thing that he's always been adamant on, and it's just never.
And Del Conte
there.
said the same thing. Chris Del Conte, the athletic director of Texas, was just like,
that was a pretty entertaining interview that they did with Feinbaum.
Yeah, I don't know if Del Conte had a couple mimosas in him.
CDC seemed like he had a little sauce in him.
I will say
it was funny. I thought it was fun.
Hanging out with him this week a little bit and chatting with him, he's just kind of like that. That's just his personality. He just kind of slings it. But yeah, no, I think 2:30 kick is a lot of fun, and you get more time to go out Friday night, go a little bit harder. Even though I don't think that stopped anybody for the 11 a.m. kick.
No,
maybe it'll be a little hard, hotter at the start of kickoff. But the shadows do come down, creep into the stadium.
Oh, it'll definitely be a thing where you're walking out of there at night. Obviously, the sun will be down by the time you get out of the Cotton Bowl, I would imagine.
And I think that in terms of TV window, it's great because you're going to be that game, for the SEC that has been so long. Their biggest game has always been 2:30 on CBS. Now it's going to be on ESPN, but it's going to be that premier game. And I asked Greg Sankey yesterday and just said, hey, it's always, not always, but mostly been at 11 a.m. Could you see it now being mostly at 2:30 moving forward? And he said that, they hope so. I think that it largely depends on how good the teams are. That'll play some factor into it. But they want it to be that premier game every single year. And I think that you also see them not change the scheduling, but they're definitely going to make that the premier game each year where there's not, you're not going to get Georgia and Alabama playing that same weekend. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be
the premier game of the weekend in the SEC.
Every single year. So we'll see. And he said, look, I can't guarantee that it won't be at 11 a.m. again, because I do think it'll come back at 11 a.m., but I think you're going to see it's going to more often be 2:30.
It'll be different, man. It's going to be weird. The rest of the schedule will be released on June 11th at 2 o'clock Eastern, so 1 o'clock here in Oklahoma, Central Time Zone on SEC Network. So, I mean, we were on June 11th. By 3 o'clock, you will have every start time for every Oklahoma football game this year, which is just it's beautiful.
I think there might be a couple where they say it could be this time or this time, or it could be this channel or this channel.
You'll have a basic idea, though.
Yes, and I think the main game they might not release yet just because it's not an SEC controlled game.
I would imagine that's but
early kick.
Oh, you think?
I don't know.
11 a.m.
It could be. I really don't know. I just know a lot of times you see Alabama and some of these other schools play those FCS schools, and it's usually in some of them have been at night. I don't know. I think it's going to largely depend on TV schedules and what's going on. So that one we might find out.
And if that was an ESPN
later.
Plus operation, that would be up to OU to see what time that game starts,
I think so.
Right?
I think so. And I don't know if it's ESPN Plus. It could be
Let's
SEC
go
Network.
old school, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You ever remember OU playing at 1 o'clock?
That'd be awesome.
They used to do that back in the day.
But yeah, I do think we'll know most of the games June 11th and it'll be on, like you said, SEC Network at 1 p.m.
Central time? Yeah, 1 o'clock Central Time.
Yep.
Dari Noka? Did you run into Dari? Was he down there?
Dari was not down there. I was hoping he would be because I was going to try and maybe grab him for an interview, but he was not.
Right,
it's not really a TV event.
Yeah, I noticed that they didn't have a whole
really
lot.
The only TV, and you have Heather Dinich, who she writes too though.
Yeah,
but she was basically doing their stand-up kind of reporting for ESPN down there.
She did the interview with Brent, right?
Yep. So it wasn't really a lot of TV stuff. That no one had a camera, Eddie. That was
crazy.
So. I don't know if you'd fit in there.
Sounds like a lot of Pulitzer Prize winning work down there. I don't know. Maybe it would be Stoya 1, Dinich 2 for my Pulitzer Prize Award wins. All right, very good. There, you did write something on Friday, though. A little bit of news. You talked to OU President Joe Harris. I know there's been a lot of discussion about tailgating in Norman, and especially going into this year. You got some news for this year as well as maybe perhaps 2025.
Yeah, I mean, last year this was the big story of opening, Lindsay Street back again, and Joe Harris told me last summer that this is just the beginning. Like,
sure.
Opening Lindsay Street was just the start of maybe bigger things for tailgating that were going to come. Well, this year they're going to open up Jacobson Hall, outside of Jacobson Hall and Carpenter Hall, that big lawn, basically right across the street, Boyd Street from Louis, and you can see it right there, across the street from Louis and the Porch. So it's a pretty big space, and also I think a really good location. You can see it there. That's it in the black circle. That red is where you already can tailgate. They're now going to open up that lawn, is what Joe Harris told me. The bigger news, and I mean, that's big news for this year, but the bigger news is they are now also considering opening up the entire duck pond for tailgating. Now, that wouldn't be this year. It's too quick to do that, and I think that they need to probably, I don't know about landscaping or like just figure out the logistics of it. But that is currently in discussions of opening up the duck pond. I do think now currently they have a little bit of it open for corporate tailgating where you can pay someone.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I don't really get over there a whole lot on game day, though.
I've never – we were talking about this before we got on here. I've never even been to the duck pond other than the parking lot to park over there for class when I was in school. So I don't even know how – apparently it's a huge area. They want to essentially turn that into their version of the Grove. Another thing that Joe Harris brought up was Texas A&M recently opened up this new thing called Aggie Park, it's supposed to be this huge open
space. By Kyle Field?
Yes. And so they want – something similar to that, and I think that they think the most feasible option is just doing it at the duck pond.
Sure.
So, and I know that I don't know if the university technically owns the duck pond. I believe it's the city's, but the city allows OU to use it for certain things, and I think that this would be one of those scenarios.
Hell, it might be a better situation that the city owns it rather than the university in this instance.
And so we'll see. I expect that to be maybe on the Jacobson Hall thing will probably be on the next Board of Regents meeting in terms of it has to be approved and all of that.
Is that because it's on campus, I guess?
I think so.
Okay.
It has to be, it was the same with Lindsay Street. It was on the Board of Regents meeting, but I'm not sure they'll officially announce it till probably August. But Joe Harris, obviously told me that. So big news on the tailgating front. I think that, he talked a lot about they just want to improve the game day atmosphere. I think that we've talked about this a lot, Eddie, but they had a committee. They went out. They saw a lot of these different SEC schools and the way that they did their game day atmospheres, whether it was tailgating or in-game stuff, and they realized that they needed to improve. And I think that Joe Harris has kind of been leading the way on that for Oklahoma.
I would imagine, and we've talked about it, this is like not new news, but it just – who's going to help the game day atmosphere? Tennessee, Alabama, all the schools coming to Norman here over the course of this season.
I think that is,
and you got the night kickoffs now,
right? Yeah, having more time. I mean, we saw it with Lindsay Street last year.
The excitement that's coming just in general around the athletic program, not just the football team.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we saw it last year with Lindsay Street, where when they had 11 a.m. kicks, it just wasn't popping, but then when they had a night game, it was awesome. It looked like the old Lindsay Street. So I think having those later kicks is huge, and I think again, just having more space though. When you have more fans coming in from other schools, you need more space. So opening up something like that lawn, which I think is a great spot, right across the street from Campus Corner, not far from the stadium. I think, and then opening up the duck pond, maybe like you just need more space because I think you're gonna have more people in town for these games, OU fans and opposing fans.
Just tents. Throw a bunch of tents out there. You'll be fine.
And also, all the people complaining about.
Oh no, there's complaints.
Well, there's a lot of when we bring up tailgating, the third party tailgaters and the SEC does that more than any other conference. Sure. There's a lot of schools. Auburn is a huge one. They do a lot of the third party tailgating. As well as Alabama and some of these other big schools. So, this is not something that just Oklahoma's doing. This is something the SEC is known for. They've been doing this for years.
Well, I don't think that, and I don't know this for a fact, but I don't think that people go to the Grove and set up their own tents. Those are third party that somebody sets up, and then you just go party balls over there. That's all you need to do.
Exactly. And if Oklahoma's not going to, like, it's a pipe dream to think that they're going to create their own version of the Grove. But if you could get something that's even half of that, I think that's a success for Oklahoma, considering where this thing's been tailgating wise.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be fun. All right, very good. Good trip down to Destin. Got a lot out there.
It's definitely a trip that I think we should be making each year. It's a lot of good info, news stuff coming out of it.
Talk 37 minutes with Brent Venables. That probably would have been worth it just in and of itself. But then you add in everybody else that you were able to talk to.
Got to hang out with Heather Dinich and Pete Thamel.
Cool.
So
awesome. Did you guys go out to dinner?
No.
Oh, well, that would have been fun.
Did not.
Eric
Eric Bailey, shout out Eric Bailey.
Dude.
He has had
the
the
nicest
worst
person
travel.
in media has had the worst travel.
I felt so bad for him.
Yeah. I mean, literally the only thing that hasn't happened, and he's back yet, right?
Yes, he is back.
Okay. I was going to say, I don't want to say it until he gets back, but I mean, the only thing that would have, I guess, made it worse is if somebody from Boeing would have killed him.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
like, that's how close they were.
I told him because he got his flight canceled on Monday and didn't get in till Tuesday afternoon. So he missed Brent's little scrum, which was like the big thing to be there for.
Sure.
And then on the way back, we're literally walking into the airport, and American cancels his flight to Dallas, and so he has to get on my flight on Southwest to Houston, and then he gets to Houston, and his flight is delayed from 9:30 p.m. till like 12:30 a.m. He didn't get home to Tulsa till like 3 a.m. last night, so I felt bad for him.
And he's man in the media, too.
The best, yeah.
That's unbelievable. All right, good. Glad that you guys got back home. Softball back in action on Saturday. Bob Prisbilla will be up at Devon Park in Oklahoma City. I'm headed over to Eldell Mitchell Ballpark for the Norman Regional Oklahoma opening against Oral Roberts on Friday night at 6 o'clock. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I think that they should win tonight. Yeah. I would think, but that would set up a pretty big date with whoever wins that UConn-Duke game to get into the regional championship Sunday night on Saturday, and it's a late start, 8 o'clock. I'm really excited to see what the what the scene is over there. It should be pretty fun.
Do you like having Witherspoon on the mound tonight? Yeah,
I do. I think he like, strangely enough, he's pitched pretty well. Like his last time out, he obviously didn't allow an earned run in the 4 innings against Kansas, but you committed 7 errors and he leaves the game. He was down 6-0. So it'll be really I think kind of interesting to see. OU or Duke I think is probably going to be the pick, but sounds like UConn's giving Duke a little bit of trouble here early in the early innings over in the opener. Did you like your name being in the U40 pod?
I did. I didn't know it was in there because I don't typically go back and re-listen just because I hate listening to myself.
Imagine what we have to do.
I had a couple people text me and I listened and it was pretty good, pretty funny.
Very good. Well, maybe we'll work on it.
Yeah, I kind of liked not being in it. It was a good ongoing joke, but I will say that the way that you guys spliced it in there, I thought was pretty good.
That was Kerry Murdoch. All right, folks, we will talk to you probably on the other side, maybe talking about a Women's College World Series championship series possibly the next time that we speak.
They look good.
It's just funny. We talked about it on the radio this morning, but as much as like we've talked about the demise of the Oklahoma program and how like what's wrong with this team, you wake up this morning and they win a game in a run rule fashion at the Women's College World Series, which, I think for everybody else it's like, what a great day. But for them it was like, yeah, okay, this is what you expected.
It feels like we're on a collision course for a little OU Texas.
That'd be sweet.
Championship.
That'd be sweet.
Greg Sankey
OU
would
Texas.
love that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. All right, for George, I'm Eddie. We'll talk to you right back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube page.